and welcome back to Jack Knives Reviews. I'm of course your host, Jack Knives. I know it's been a while, in the middle of Hyperthetical to be doing this, but a specific movie is coming out and I wanted to talk about the other movies in said franchise before anyone's minds are tainted before they see it. In fact, I feel like I need to get in the appropriate attire in order to properly do these justice. If you'll indulge me for a moment. See, now I'm in the proper gear. Let's change the lighting. There we go. Now we can properly celebrate Crow Month. Now, I have the both fortune and unfortune of discussing the 1994 Crow film, as it is one of my favorite movies, and I have talked about it to no end. In fact, done a hypothetical about it, which you can see in the link in the description below. But what about the other Crows? Mind you, this is a franchise that has spanned for 30 years. For varying degrees, none have ever been able to quite capture exactly what made the 1994 Crow so special. And to varying degrees, each film has tried in their own way. Not trying to mimic, but trying to do something different. So I figured I would go over all of the other Crow movies, and even the new one, to try to figure out how they are in comparison to the golden apple that is the 1994 Crow, and figure out which Crow stays in the murder, or which should be left dead. So let's start off with the second Crow movie. This is Crow, City of Angels.
The Crow, City of Angels.
Set several years after the events of the first Crow film, a man named Ash Corvin and his young son Danny are witnesses to a murder committed by a series of drug dealers, led by the drug kingpin Judah Earl. A tattoo artist named Sarah, who was the young girl from the first film, finds Ash and is willing to help him figure out and track down those responsible for his and Danny's death, as she's had visions of the events that will and have took place, with the spirit of the Crow now enveloping on the City of Angels. City of Angels had an unfortunate disposition, simultaneously trying to not overdo mimicking the original Crow, and yet also trying to do its own thing, while also establishing it is within the same universe. It had a lot of things to juggle, and in some regards it did well, in some regards it didn't. Vincent Perez this time takes the mantle of the Crow, not as a scorned lover who lost someone he cared for, but this time the eyes of a father who had his son murdered and himself murdered merely for being victims of circumstance. And it's a unique idea. I like that they swayed so far from the original and yet did such an amazing concept for it. Vincent Perez does a great job as Ash. I really enjoyed his portrayal because he wasn't trying to be anything more than a mourning father, and yet he could be pretty cool in his own way. Not too much like Eric Draven, but just enough to stand out. The villain was pretty interesting, but not great. It kind of came off as a little too phony. The henchmen were really fun, though, in a dark, twisted way. But I think the biggest misstep is bringing in Sarah. Sarah was such a huge part of the first Crow movie, and was really the only tether that aligned us to the original movie, and is the only movie that really feels like a sequel because of it. But unfortunately, the actor that got to play Sarah was boring. It just didn't feel like Sarah. It felt like some random girl named Sarah. And this whole weird psychic vision thing they added for her, and she's like a painter, and just... it didn't make any sense. It felt so tacked on. Unfortunately, the setting is absolutely as close to the original as you could get. The soundtrack was amazing as well, with some kick-ass rock music. And it's as close to the original without being the original. I give Crow, City of Angels 3.5 out of 5. Have you seen Crow City of Angels? Let me know in the comments down below, and keep on enjoying Crow Month.